Trump, how many times have we had the conversation where he says something completely tasteless?
A lot, yeah.
And you go, oh, well, maybe this will be the turning point for Donald Trump, and then it doesn't matter. I was quite taken aback by what he said. I thought it was a sort of weird victory lap on his airing of grievances that he tends to do, and calling Hezbollah smart, which he's kind of done that with dictators and stuff in the past, and it's a really nasty side of Trump that comes out every so often. He had absolutely no need to say that, and but I don't think it's going to hurt him ultimately.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with managing editor Chris Irvine.
Hey.
And Chris, after President Biden was sort of criticized for being behind the scenes a little bit over the weekend, we now know he was talking to the special counsel about his classified documents. He's come out with a pretty forceful response, forceful speech at least, about Israel. How would you grade the sort of totality of the Biden administration response, from the way they've talked about Iran to Biden's rhetoric?
I think Biden, I think he's done a pretty good job, to be honest, so far. I do think that he has to kind of marry certain expectations. He's got to show that the US is fully behind Israel. And I think certainly the rhetoric coming out of the Biden administration shows that. They obviously want to kind of encourage restraint when it comes to hitting civilians, which whether the Israelis kind of take that on board, I don't know. But he does also have that kind of progressive wing of his party that we know from past experience has been very kind of pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli, and we've seen some of that creep in, unfortunately, this week of both sidesing it, which is really not the kind of time or place for that. So I think Biden is being pretty much as forceful as he can be, and while still kind of trying to satisfy everybody. Now, not everyone's going to be happy with it, obviously, but it's tough. And one thing that did kind of concern me with him was when he was talking yesterday, as of this recording, that he'd seen these pictures of the babies that had been decapitated, and then the White House walked that back later, which I thought was really confusing. And again, it plays into the narrative that the White House is always kind of walking back stuff that he says. And so what did he see? And I think this is just the type of horrible story that you can't afford any misinformation. You can't afford, everybody has to kind of be on the same page there. I did not think that was particularly helpful.
What do you think of the way that Democratic leadership has handled the both sidesism that we've seen from some of the members of the squad, one of whom is still flying the Palestinian flag outside of her office on Capitol Hill, and some of whom have sort of issued statements that frankly have been interpreted as excusing some of what Hamas has done by sort of blaming the actions of the Israeli government? How do you think that the leadership has done enough to sort of distance the rest of the party from that sentiment?
Oh, I think the Democrats do have a serious problem with that. And leadership has obviously, again, had to kind of make sure that they're championing Israel, and Israel has a right to defend itself, obviously. But the Democrats have kind of allowed that to fester. And I understand some of the squad Democrats, like Rashida Tlaib, who obviously has Palestinian roots, that there will be sympathy to the Palestinian cause there. But I really do think that this particular atrocity that happened on Saturday is really been kind of a game changer there. And it's not the type of thing that you can say, oh, well, on the one hand this, but on the other hand this. And that sort of thing could end up really hurting the Democrats in the future, that if they're seen as sympathetic to this cause, and it's definitely not a message I would want if I was in Democratic leadership.
Shifting gears a little bit, in the 2024 race, you have obviously Republicans weighing in on this and the way the Biden administration has handled it. Donald Trump has faced some criticism for some sort of bizarre things he said about Hezbollah, and Vivek Ramaswamy, who is the most isolationist, arguably, of the Republican candidates, has also faced some criticism for sort of saying that U.S. shouldn't really get involved no matter what, sort of let Israel take care of it. Do you think that this, it has an impact on the 2024 race for those guys, for the others?
For Trump, how many times have we had the conversation where he says something completely tasteless?
A lot, yeah.
And you go, oh, well, maybe this will be the turning point for Donald Trump, and then it doesn't matter. I was quite taken aback by what he said. I thought it was a sort of weird victory lap on his airing of grievances that he tends to do, and calling Hezbollah smart, which he's kind of done that with dictators and stuff in the past, and it's a really nasty side of Trump that comes out every so often. He had absolutely no need to say that, and but I don't think it's going to hurt him ultimately. I really don't, because again, it maybe plays into the sort of isolationist base that part of the Republican wing, that wing of the Republican Party now has. Whether it affects the other candidates for 2024, I think it's cynically looking with my election hat on that it will give people like Tim Scott and Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley to maybe kind of try and establish some foreign policy bona fides, being strong with Israel. I don't think now's the right time for Vivek to preach the isolationism. I think ultimately Americans like to see themselves as the policeman of the world in some respects, maybe not getting involved in every situation as they've sometimes been wont to do in the past, but you need a kind of strong America on the foreign policy stage, especially when you've got bad actors like Iran pulling strings behind the scenes. I'm sure Russia and China are looking on, with a bit of glee in some respects, and America needs to project a real strong appearance in the world.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more writing from Chris and the rest of the political team at washingtonexaminer.com.